But I will tell you, watching Shedeur, I said it last week, I'll say it again, it reminds me of the Colorado Shedeur. But I think my take is on Shedeur, he's good enough to start in the league, isn't he?
Breaking. Colin Cowherd just got humbled by Shedeur Sanders. The same national voice who spent months doubting this kid's NFL future is now headlining segments with one message: Shedeur Sanders will be the Cleveland Browns franchise quarterback. That is not just a hot take. That is one of the biggest reversals in sports media this season. Because only a few months ago, Cowherd was one of Shedeur's loudest critics. Leading up to the draft and into the early weeks of the season, he questioned whether Shedeur was truly an elite prospect. He mocked the idea that Shedeur could walk into the NFL and succeed. Now, after that dominant performance against the Titans, Cowherd is scrambling to get back on the right side of history. Before we dive into how wild this flip really is, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of our breakdowns on Shedeur, the Browns, and every storyline the national media gets wrong before they get it right. Because this is not just about Cowherd giving some generic praise, it is about the way he is doing it. You can hear the backpedaling in every word. You can hear the humility that only comes when a prediction blows up in your face on live television. The confident, sharp, almost mocking tone he used before is turned into careful, measured, almost reluctant respect.
My takeaway on him is if you look mostly like you look in college, then I think it's going to work. So I think he's a franchise quarterback. I think all these guys.
This is the same Colin Cowherd who blasted Shedeur Sanders for months. He questioned Shedeur's decision-making. He dismissed the idea that Shedeur was ready for NFL speed. Now his tone is softer, less sure of itself. You can hear the weight of regret in his voice. Because Shedeur did not just prove him wrong, he embarrassed the entire narrative.
Cleveland was missing 6 to 7 starters and still had over 400 yards in bad weather, 6.5 yards per play.
Listen to what Cowherd is saying now. He points out that Shedeur is showing the exact same command and poise he had at Colorado. He says that if Shedeur keeps this up, he could realistically be the Browns' starting quarterback as early as next season. Around 0:29 to 0:36 in his segment titled "Why Shedeur Sanders Will Be Cleveland Browns Franchise QB," Cowherd is no longer asking if Shedeur is an NFL guy. He is telling his audience that Shedeur is the guy in Cleveland. And it is not empty hype. He is finally using real evidence. He highlights that even with 4 or 5 offensive starters out against the Titans, Shedeur still threw for 400 yards. 4 or 5 key pieces of the offense missing, and this rookie carved up an NFL defense. That is not a feel-good story. That is franchise quarterback production. Cowherd openly admits that Shedeur is proving himself in the league. He admits that performance humbled him. He is not trying to tear Shedeur down anymore. The early criticism is turned into a more respectful, almost grudging acknowledgement of how good this kid really is.
Humility works in the summer. It works in the fall. Humility works in the spring. Humility works in the winter. Don't gas your kids up too much.
The irony is brutal. During the draft process, Cowherd used Shedeur's slide to the 5th round as a lesson in humility. He told his audience that when a quarterback falls that far, it means the league is sending a message. He even took shots at Deion Sanders, saying Prime was writing his son's name and his own brand for attention.
Good stuff right there, Dan. Do you like what you've seen from Shedeur so far?
I do. He's playing faster. That's probably the biggest gripe of him coming out of school. So this is the traditional under center bootleg. The big thing is after the fake, you got to snap your head, find that end man. He does.
Now karma has circled back. The same draft slide Cowherd used as proof that Shedeur was overhyped has become proof the league got it wrong. Shedeur is forcing Cowherd to learn that humility lesson himself. Every throw, every drive, every win is a reminder of how off those early takes really were. And Cowherd is not alone. Dan Orlovsky has done a complete 180 of his own. This is the same Dan who spent the entire pre-draft process convinced that Shedeur would not make it in the NFL. He went on TV, called Shedeur one of the weakest throwers in the draft class, questioned his arm strength, questioned his processing, questioned whether he even had a real NFL future. He literally framed Shedeur as a guy you are not taking early in the draft. You are not taking a guy early because of that, because of some hype, because of some name.
One of the things for Shedeur coming out of the draft that I was critical of was like, I don't think he's a ridiculous athlete, not a high-end athlete, kind of average.
Orlovsky did not stop there. Even in the preseason, he kept coming after Shedeur. He dissected his media interviews, said he sounded immature, said he did not act like a quarterback, painted him as unfocused, like he was more interested in fame than football. It felt personal, like Dan was waiting for Shedeur to fail so we could say, "I told you so." Then the Titans game happened, and Dan Orlovsky had no choice but to eat every word. After watching Shedeur light up Tennessee, after watching him control the game and deliver under pressure, Orlovsky issued a public apology. The same analyst who once called Shedeur one of the weakest throwers in the class is now praising his growth and natural talent.
Everything that you do when you're a quarterback, I don't care if you're first, second, or third, is a job interview. In that league, every single thing you do.
This is not some casual apology either. This is a full pivot. Orlovsky has gone from doubter to believer, from hater to hype man. He is now calling Shedeur the perfect fit for the Cleveland Browns. He is saying on air that Shedeur looks like a legitimate NFL starter, a real answer at quarterback, not a project, not a maybe, a starter. And he is backing it up with tape. In his latest breakdown video, Orlovsky does not just throw around compliments. He breaks down specific plays from the Titans game. He shows where Shedeur manipulates safeties with his eyes, how he stands in against pressure, how he anticipates windows before they open. Around 2:58 to 3:09 in the clip titled "Shedeur Sanders played at a very high level versus the Titans," Dan Orlovsky, NFL Live, Dan flat out says it, Shedeur Sanders played at a very high level, one of the best performances he has evaluated.
3 is the backside right now. Man, that's awesome. We see that from high-level starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Very well done by Shedeur. Changes the protection here.
Think about that for a second. This is the same Dan Orlovsky who once seemed almost eager to see Shedeur come up short, who kept nitpicking his interviews and personality, saying you cannot act like that as a quarterback. Now he is ranking Shedeur among the top quarterbacks in the league, based on performance. That is not a tweak. That is a total transformation. So what changed? Not the cameras, not the talk shows. Shedeur did. Or, more accurately, he did exactly what he said he would do. He went out with a banged-up offense, with 4 or 5 starters out, and he delivered. 400 yards through the air against the Titans, command of the huddle, command of the pocket, the same calm and swagger he showed at Colorado, but now on Sundays.
Why Shedeur Sanders dropped like a rock in the draft and ended up going in the 5th round with the Cleveland Browns, where he's now splitting scout team duties with Bailey Zappi. Deion Sanders admitted the Eagles and the Ravens called his son before the draft, but he didn't want to be a long-term backup. Deion is quoted as saying, "I never sat on the bench and learned a lot." I mean, who learns sitting on the bench? Oh, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers, Brady, Patrick Mahomes behind Alex Smith. So 2 great organizations said, would you like to come into our house and learn from us? Nah, yeah, not great parenting.
This rise from doubted prospect to critic silencer has been unreal. Early on, countless voices lined up to say Shedeur was not ready. Colin Cowherd, Dan Orlovsky, and a whole list of other analysts and commentators. They painted him as just another overhyped kid with a famous last name. They said he would get exposed when he hit the league. They said Deion was overselling his son.
Legendary is all over the draft room. I'm like, can we just pull the temperature down a little? It's not the end of the world. If he had Caleb Williams' talent, nobody would, I guess, care. But the whole thing is like, bro, you wore New York Giant cleats.
Fast forward to right now. Shedeur has flipped the script in spectacular fashion. His performances are not one-week wonders. He has delivered standout games, even with limited help. He has kept his poise when the protection breaks down. He has put up numbers that most veteran quarterbacks would kill for. Cowherd, one of his harshest critics, now points out that 400 yards with multiple starters out is not normal. It is special. He is finally acknowledging Shedeur's excellence on the field. Orlovsky, once convinced Shedeur would never be a real NFL guy, now openly calls him one of the league's top young quarterbacks. That is poetic justice.
So a lot of people want to see me fail, and it ain't gonna happen.
Because Shedeur did not clap back with interviews. He did not go on a media tour to defend himself. He did what real quarterbacks do. He responded between the lines, with the ball in his hand, with the game on the line. His unshakable confidence, the same swagger people mocked, became his fuel. The very people who mocked him now stand humbled. Their takes live forever on the internet. Their clips are out there, and every week Shedeur makes them look worse. In a way, his entire story is a masterclass in perseverance and self-belief. He is not just proving doubters wrong, he is proving that undeniable talent, paired with work, will always rise, no matter how loud the criticism gets. So now it is your turn. What do you think about Shedeur Sanders' incredible journey? Are you surprised by how fast he silenced his critics, or did you always believe he had this kind of potential? How do you feel about the dramatic shift from guys like Colin Cowherd and Dan Orlovsky, who were once so vocal in their doubts and are now leading the praise? Does this reversal feel like pure poetic justice to you, or does it just show how quickly perceptions can change in the world of sports when a narrative flips overnight and suddenly the same voices who trashed a player are calling him a franchise savior? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you stood on Shedeur before the draft and where you stand now after the Titans game and everything he has done since. And if you want more breakdowns of how Shedeur keeps humbling the national media, make sure you are subscribed, because this story is just getting started.